Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the It's Just Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and, of course, sitting right across from me, as always, Bob Walz.
Tom, it's great to be here, and I understand that you've got a little bit of a throat issue
I do
today.
have a throat issue.
It's springtime, it's allergies, it's not COVID. You're going to be fine,
COVID.
You're going to live, it's not pneumonia. You just got a little bit of...
a little frog.
Yes, that happens. It happens to the best of us.
So if you hear me cough, you'll know what's going on.
Okay. Well, and if any time, see, this is my job as the co-host. At any time, if the host is not able to fulfill his responsibilities as the host, it's kind of like being the runner-up in the Miss America
and you
pageant.
will take over.
And I will step in. I'll recognize that, and I will step in, and I will run the show.
Thank you.
It's what I do.
Hey, this is our week after our big event.
Yeah.
We went to Jurassic Taco last week.
We did. That was spectacular.
Wasn't it fun?
It was even better than I thought it was going to be.
And how was the
keto taco?
Taco?
I have gone back there twice since then and gotten that same keto. It was so good because it was cheese instead of a tortilla.
It was,
and the steak was delicious.
Delicious, absolutely amazing.
Word.
So
good.
I'd like to thank those folks out at Jurassic Taco
Yeah.
for having us out there. We had a big group. We had about 100 kids show up.
Yeah, I was amazed at what a big following we actually have here on the It's Just Dinner podcast.
Who knew?
I didn't know that. But, it's fun to be recognized as a rock star of the podcasting
It was,
industry.
and we were there, and people were getting our autographs
They
and
were
talking to us.
It was,
and lots of interviews. We had fun talking to the kids.
We did, and eating tacos, and the whole vibe. It was
muy
bueno.
It was great. So we had a great time.
Yeah.
Hey, we also have Lauren over there.
Hey.
Lauren, glad to have you here. She was with us there at Jurassic Taco.
Yes.
She was.
Running the show, setting up cameras right there in the restaurant.
So she was fun too. Did you have a good time there at Jurassic Taco?
It was so fun. And I honestly, not that I wasn't expecting a lot of people, but I wasn't expecting that many people.
It was so crowded in there you could hardly hear.
Yeah.
It was so crowded.
It was really cool to see
great.
how many people really do love and enjoy what we're talking about. And,
Yeah.
Well, and they were there having dinner together.
Right.
I mean,
It was really nice.
I was just kidding when I said they showed up to see us. I just snuck that in. But really, the reason they came was because they were actually on first dates.
Yeah. It was fun watching them sit and talk together. It was really fun.
It was. Proving out the theory of It's Just Dinner.
Works.
It does work.
And we had a lot of people have a lot of fun, which was even better for us.
Yes.
So I have in my hand right now
Yes, I can see
some
it there.
real, authentic bad date stories.
Oh, bad date stories.
I've had
That's
a lot
like our
of
favorite
people-
thing to do, isn't it, Lauren?
That's
I've had a
my
lot of
favorite.
people send me their bad date stories.
Well, we've got a list. We're making a top 10 list, so let's see if any of these are going to make the list.
We're going to see if any of these make it. So
Okay.
I'm going to read these,
Okay.
and then we'll see. We'll let you and Lauren comment.
Okay, I like the setup here.
Yeah.
I like
So
this.
this
That's a good idea.
this should be fun. So I picked out some of the ones that I thought were
Okay.
good. All right, so here we go. So I think this is a young woman. She says, I met this guy and I thought he was cute, so I started talking and hanging out and texting. He finally asked me out to dinner, and I was very excited to go. When we were at dinner, he came up with a list of questions on his phone for me, all of them regarding my future and dreams.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
At first, I thought it was really fun to answer the questions, but the longer it went on, the weirder it felt.
Yeah.
Toward the beginning of hanging out, with him, I asked about what he was doing for his work and if he was in school and what he was going to do for his future. And it turns out he was working part-time, living with his parents, not in school or planning to go to school.
Oh, man.
And he wants to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, well, don't we all want to be an entrepreneur?
I would
Yeah.
like to be an entrepreneur.
I would too. Well, I'm kind of an entrepreneur, not just very unsuccessful.
Well, get this part, okay? He said, when I asked him more about being an entrepreneur, he was really vague with his answers.
Oh.
He didn't really have a product or service that he was offering. But it was more about, he said it was more about making connections and helping people become financially free.
Oh, well, that's
Okay.
always good.
Okay.
He talked about having a mentor and that I should meet her and that she would be able to explain it better.
Oh.
So anyways, a few weeks later, he told me that he was meeting his mentor and that I should come if I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to go, and when I got there, it was not what I expected. The meeting was definitely not for him, but they turned it on me.
Uh-huh.
Turns out, he's part of an MLM.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yep.
Didn't you know?
Yep.
Couldn't you just feel that one
I
coming?
could just
Uh-huh.
feel the essential oils.
Yes.
Just,
And
Oozing.
they never would say the name.
oh man.
Sounds like Amway.
Yeah.
And they tried to get me to join.
Mm.
They gave me a book, invited me to read it, and then invited me to a convention that weekend that I was supposed to learn from other entrepreneurs.
Oh.
After that, things got a little weird between me and the boy, and I ended up ending things with him. And she says, after looking back on my relationship with this dude, I realized that our first date might not have been a first date,
No.
but a recruiting effort.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Oh
was.
man.
Ooh, and that's, you never want to feel like you're that there's some false pretense
Yeah.
for the reason that you're
Yeah.
going out on the date.
So he was interviewing her,
Yes, not as a dating partner, someone he was interested in, but
Right.
someone to
a
advance.
business partner.
Yes, well, and not even a business partner, someone just to be in his downline.
Right.
Yeah.
So the social media marketing gets a bad rap, and it's because of people like that.
Yeah.
The MLM industry gets a bad rap because of people who do things like that who aren't honest.
Right.
But the thing is, if he'd have said, listen, I would like to meet with you about a business opportunity, and if she said yes, then that would all been fine.
Yep.
But to make it sound like it was a romantic dating kind of a thing.
Yeah, a lot of false pretense there.
Yes. Well,
It's like, I don't know, just like the audacity. For me,
Yeah.
I'm I'm a go-getter, and so like talking to somebody or going on a date with somebody and they're like, yeah, like I'm not planning on doing school. I'm not planning on, it's fine.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, what is your plan? And
Right.
like, what are you
His
doing?
plan was an
Because-
MLM.
well, like, exactly. And it's like, oh, well, like, this is super vague. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, like, you got to know specifically what you're going to do if you're going to do kind of an alternate route
yeah.
on, like, where you're going, because I'm not babysitting
Well,
you.
and
Like-
and love is blind. Sometimes people fall in love with people and they don't have their career plan planned out.
For sure.
But honesty seems to be
Honesty
at the very
is the
top
Yeah.
best
of the
policy
list.
here.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
All right, so how about this one? And I think this one happens a lot more than what we know. Said, I met a guy online who seemed nice, so we decided to meet for dinner. I like that.
That's the perfect start of a narrative
It
story.
is
We
a
could.
Great
Yes.
start for a date. When he shows up to the restaurant, he is clearly about 15 years older than his profile picture.
Oof.
I was quite shocked, and I decided I would just be nice, eat dinner, get
out
the
of
date
there.
over with, and then get out of there.
Yeah.
After dinner, he insisted on walking me to my car.
Mm.
And he said, okay, so I'll just follow you back to your place then.
I guess not.
Yeesh.
No.
She said I was quite shocked and a little scared for my safety, so I said, okay. And then I ripped out of the parking lot before he could get to
Yeah.
his car.
Then you just say this, that, well, okay, please follow me. I'm currently staying at the Provo City Police
Yeah,
Department.
can you?
Yeah.
Or drive right in there.
So
and-
just follow me right in. I'm going into the underground parking, so just follow me right in. And if you see any of the officers, just wave to them.
Yeah. And then she ends it and says he texted me an hour later and asked me if I'd made it home, and she said I ghosted him and thankfully never heard from him again.
Yes.
So
Oh, that is creepy. So, see, that can be start of a great narrative. I met a guy online and agreed to go to dinner. That also could be the start of a Hitchcock movie.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
scary,
You know,
scary.
that could go one of two ways. And so as she was smart in, at least, let's look at the positive side. She was smart in the fact that she had this meet at a public place.
Right.
And so, it wasn't he was picking her up or something where she
Right,
was dependent
right.
upon him
Right.
for a ride. So that saved her. The creepy part was he was going to follow her.
Yeah, and I'm glad she was smart enough
Yes,
to
to
get out of there
get
really
out of there.
fast.
Yeah, for
fast.
sure.
So, all right, this one you're going to love this
Okay.
one. I thought this was just hilarious. So, he said, I met this girl in one of my classes and we became cool and started studying together and texting a bit. There was a connection for sure.
Sounds good so far.
So far, so
So
good. He
far,
said
so good.
a few weeks later, I asked her on a date and she said that she wanted to go stargazing. So we did that, and I picked her up from her apartment, and we went to go eat first. And all was going pretty well. I gave her the auxiliary cord so she could play some music, and we started listening to Justin Bieber. Pretty cool, I guess.
Oh, well, apparently so.
How does it get better than Justin
I can't
Bieber?
imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Harry Styles, maybe.
Well.
But
Yeah.
so when we get to the restaurant, I chose Noodles and Company. So just a shout out to Noodles and Company.
I love Noodles and
If you want to be
They're not one of our sponsors.
if you want to
but
be a sponsor for
Yeah.
It's Just Dinner.
Yeah.
We got our pasta and then started talking about our families. And I pulled out my phone to show her some family photos my mom had just sent in our family group chat.
Right.
While I was showing her the photos from the group chat, my mom sends a picture, I don't know if I can even say this, of the unflushed toilet with a big poop in it with the text, "Flush the toilet next time, Grant."
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so this is the mom.
Just got outed by mom.
Mom does not want him to get married.
But he said Grant is my little brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's looking through the group chat at some pictures, and Mom sends a picture.
That's kind
It
of
says, "Flush the toilet next time, Grant."
And so so this is actually the little brother that the mom is
Yeah.
going after, but
Yeah.
has no idea that this is going to the date of her older
The older brother.
their older
Yeah.
brother. This is a funny story.
It said the group chat then goes all the way down the photos, and she sees it, and she says, "I'm shocked," and I say, "I'm sorry," and she awkwardly laughs and says it's okay. The rest of the dinner is fine, though we continued talking, and then we go stargazing. It all turned out okay, and after the date, I text the group chat, told them what happened, and they were laughing and think about it all the time, and said it's pretty funny to this day.
Wow. Well.
It's a memorable story.
Yes,
that's
it is.
for sure.
You know,
Yeah.
that stinks. You know,
Literally.
that's all I can say.
I can just imagine. That's so funny.
Oh.
All right, so here's another one for you. This one I've read this to a few of my students today, and they thought
Okay.
this was really funny.
All right.
So a guy asked me to get some food with him at a pizza place.
Good start. Good start.
Going to dinner again. Which is always a
Congratulations
good
to him.
thing. When we got there, we went to order. He told me to go first. So I ordered and paid and then waited for him to order. And he told me he wasn't hungry. So he had just finished running and didn't feel like eating. So we sat and talked. I got my food.
No, I know.
And then he just watched me eat for 30 minutes.
Oh, no.
That's better than I thought he was going to say. And so then he ate my pizza.
Oh, man. That would...
Uh-huh.
She said, "Worst date of my life."
Mm.
Surprisingly, there was no second date.
Yes. Well,
You've been on one of those situations, maybe even with our wives, where you sit and eat,
right.
and they don't eat,
And
and, they
then-
just stare at you
yeah.
while you're eating.
Very awkward.
I can't
very-
imagine on a
Well,
first date.
it's especially a lot of times women are very uncomfortable to eat in front of men because we have that whole body image thing, and you know
Right.
and so to magnify that on a date is just a really bad idea.
on a
fellas.
first date.
On a first
Yeah.
date, just a bad idea.
I was wondering, as I read this, was he having her order first, and he was hoping she was going to order a big pizza
Yeah, that's what I was
and
thinking.
pay
He was
for
going to
it,
eat it.
and then he could eat. But since she ordered just a small thing for her,
Right.
he decided, well, I don't have any money, so I'm just not going to eat.
Well, and then the premise of the whole thing, because I used to run a lot, and when I was done running, I was always hungry.
Starving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was saying, oh, I just ran, I can't eat anything, you know.
That's
So
when
he
you're
might not have had
supposed to eat.
money, you know, so what were the reasons? Did he not have the money?
Well, it
to
didn't go into the details
Yeah.
there, so.
Well, we can just only speculate that he had mental illness problems, so let's just skip that story and
That
move
he-
on to
that he was a little
let's
nuts.
Not, let's not make fun of
But
the
there was no
mentally
second
ill.
date,
Well,
surprisingly. All right, you ready for another one?
I am.
All right, so I met this guy, and he asked me if I wanted to do something Friday. I agreed, and then he proceeded to make all the plans for the whole date, even though he was the one asking me out.
Oh.
Nope.
She's already nope.
Well, but don't you like that control? I mean, what he's showing you there is that I'm willing to give you the control in the relationship right off the top.
So this is what she says. I mentioned lots of good ideas for our date, but he shot them all down. And eventually we settled on going out to dinner. See, she should have just started with that.
there.
Yeah.
Well, if she'd listened to our podcast,
Yeah,
she would have known.
She would have picked dinner right
Would've
off.
been-
After we solidified the plans, he texted me and asked me, "So is this a date?" And I replied, "I don't know, is it? You were the one that asked me out." Then he said, "Okay, I guess it's a date. Rest in peace, my wallet."
Wow.
That's what she said.
There's so much going on there with that.
It's like,
So did she go? Did she actually go on the date?
It sounds like it.
Oh,
Oh
no.
my gosh.
So I was thinking, like, sorry, bro, I'm not trying to break your wallet. So they went to Panda Express, and he asked me what I wanted to get. I told him that I would just get the bowl, which was the smallest and cheapest thing on the menu, because I didn't want to destroy his wallet.
No, well, you made that clear right
Fair.
up the
Yeah.
top, didn't you?
Then he told me that we should share a meal.
Ah, that's romantic.
So this is almost as bad as the one before.
Oh.
Now he's going to eat the food, right? So
Right.
I insisted that I just wanted my own meal, but he didn't like that, and he made us share a meal.
Ah.
Then she says, "Gross."
Oh, dear.
While we were eating, he kept asking me really weird questions for a first date, like how many kids I wanted and stuff that I liked. And then it was finally time for him to take me home. We got to my house, and he said, "So, if this is going as well as I think it is, where can we go on our second date?" It's like some of these guys just...
Oh, no. I think if we deconstruct this, Tom, and sadly, we're laughing at it now, but there's sadness.
There really is.
I'm actually tearing up right now if you're seeing this on YouTube. But because what this tells me is that this young man has no clue.
Absolutely
no
No
clue
idea.
No.
of what it takes to develop a relationship with a young woman. I mean, from start to finish, except for the fact that he asked her.
Right.
He must have heard that from our podcast that you're supposed to
actually ask him.
But after the initial asking a girl, he was so perplexed with not knowing what to do that he had to reemphasize and say, "Well, is this a date?" Like when you asked her on a date, "Do you want to go on a date?" You didn't know it
was a date.
It was a date. So
And that you should pay
yeah, you should pay, and you shouldn't guilt her.
to get the least expensive thing on the menu.
Yeah, and so it's just very sad to think that there are people out there that are so unexperienced with dating that they would fall into that kind of behavior. It's a tragic commentary on the world.
It
we
really
live in.
is, and I feel bad for
Oh.
I feel bad for young women that get caught up in this
Well,
situation.
I feel bad for this young man too, because he clearly is he's operating. He's got an unloaded gun. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
And so, how do you go through your entire high school, teenage life with not understanding how to connect with another human being better than that?
I think in a lot of ways we teach that.
Well, unfortunately, I think maybe we do.
You ever had a boy do that to you, Lauren?
Not to that extent.
Did they ever share a meal with you?
No, but I don't know. Like the one thing that I kind of like, my initial thoughts from that story is just like how attractive it is to have someone ask you out who has a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like with that, it's just like, oh, is this a date? Don't ask.
Yeah.
Ask your friends that.
Yeah.
Like, ask if
Ask
that's
them
what
what a
qualifies.
date is.
Well,
And if
this,
not,
is this a date? Well, let me think. Did you ask her to go on a date? Yes. Did she accept? Yes. Well, then it's a date.
Are you picking her up? Yes.
right. And it's just like, if you're taking the time and you're like trying to find things to do. Yes, there are times where it's like, I don't know what I want to do, but like, be creative, find something,
Find something.
or at least have like go to dinner,
Yeah.
like at the very minimum.
Well, or, if we deconstruct this further and let's give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe, perhaps, he just did not have the money.
That could be.
And
For
so,
sure.
there are times, but I think, again, we come to transparency and honesty, and you say, look, I would love to take you out to dinner, but I am just broke.
Yeah.
And so do you mind if instead of going out to dinner, we just went and did this,
And she probably would have been very happy doing that.
Because I just really want to get to know you
Yeah.
better. And I'm sorry that just, right now I'm just broke and I can't afford to buy dinner
Just a
for
walk.
us.
Just go on a walk.
Maybe we go and get a soda, or
Right.
maybe we get a
For
frozen
sure.
yogurt or something.
Right.
Because then I think the girl, realizes, yes, number one, this is a date. Number two, the intent is that he wants to get to know me better. Very flattering. And totally understand when people don't have money. Girls don't want to bankrupt a guy by making him take him out to eat. I mean, that's not the intent here.
No.
And so, but just a little bit of experience could have helped that situation along.
Even just, learning along the way.
And
would
listening
have
to
been.
this podcast. So if this man is ever arrested, the judge should sentence him to listening to our podcast for
Over
a month.
and over and over.
Well,
Yeah.
for at least a month,
At
I would
least.
say, the sentence.
And then come be our guest and tell
And
us what he
explain
learned.
to us what he learned.
Yeah. In detail. All right, you ready for another one?
I am ready.
Okay. This says, I went to the sand dunes with my date and a group of about 5 of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anybody but him, and so I already felt a little uncomfortable in the big group by myself, which I always think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know anyone else, it makes it really
not on a first
really
date.
tough.
Yeah.
He also didn't tell me what we were doing beforehand.
Oh.
Here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew was that it was a little over an hour away and that we would leave at 10 p.m.
Wow.
Is that a
That's
normal
a little
thing?
scary.
Well,
Yeah.
if you were going to go to the Nutty Putty Cave or something like that, you would understand. But the sand dunes at
yeah.
10?
Well, and the
yeah.
fact that he didn't tell her what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, she says, I was thinking the activity would be indoors. I wore sandals, leggings, and a light jacket.
Oh.
However, upon arriving, I realized that we would strictly be outside, and temperatures were about 25 degrees
Oh, my
at the
word.
top of the dunes. She says, I was freezing and also kind of irritated that I wasn't told we were going there. My open-toed shoes and toes were frostbitten and caked with sand as I struggled to climb the hills. All of his friends were playing group games at the top, but I was simply too cold to participate. I felt like I could hardly move. After about 45 minutes of that, my date and several of his friends decided to randomly run off. This sounds familiar. Into the distance. I think to warm up, leaving me behind with 2 others whom I had never met before. Those 2 paired off and anyway left me, and I sat down on the sand waiting for my date to come back, trying to keep my miserable cold self warm. And I sat there for about a half an hour, completely alone in a foreign place at midnight in 25-degree weather.
Ugh.
It was the weirdest feeling, like total abandonment in this desert wasteland.
Oh, my word.
Finally, my date and his friends came back to pack up and leave. It's safe to say I was ready to hop into the warm car and get the heck out of there. I slept very well, though, that night, and this is one date that I will definitely never forget.
Oh, my goodness. Just the sadness that you kind of brought in a real negative tone to our otherwise upbeat podcast with that story, Tom. Because didn't you feel, the narrative transportation, I felt like I was going through that at the time. I felt a sense of sadness, and I was a little chilly. My toes are
got
cold.
cold,
right now.
didn't you, thinking about that?
Yes.
Ooh.
It's, again, that idea that you tell the young woman what you're going to do, what she needs to wear, what to plan for, what to expect, all those things. It just takes a little common courtesy. And
Well, that's bigger than this. Is just having courtesy for another human being.
right.
Right.
And just did you not think this through? Were you just operating by the seat of your pants, that you needed a date you didn't care who it was, you just wanted someone to
Yeah,
go with you?
yeah.
I mean, so many problems with that.
And then leaving at 10 p.m., I still don't
Right, so
quite
don't
understand that
come
one.
back and tell me that she married that guy.
It didn't say that. It sounded like she was
Goodness.
kind of done with him.
Good for her.
All right, I have one more
Okay.
before we end today.
Okay.
First couple of weeks that I moved up to Utah, I ended up going to an event with my roommates and some of my friends, and I met this guy. He asked me out, and I decided to give him a chance and see how things go. When he picked me up, it was a little awkward, so I suggested that we turn on some music.
Mm-hmm.
He responded with a quick no. saying that he didn't have a single song on his headphones or on his phone. When we got to the restaurant, we ordered our food. It was going a little better, but then he started talking about potatoes and would not stop.
Okay, he's making this up. This isn't a real story.
This Idaho boy, like what? What is this?
Okay, now wait, just a minute. He started talking about potatoes.
Potatoes.
And wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
The whole day it was just about how much he loved potatoes.
He's making this up. This is not a real story. Nobody can do this.
I don't know about this.
This is not real.
Come on.
He's messing with us.
I did not write this.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, carry on.
All right. And she said every time I changed the subject, somehow we always end up back with talking about potatoes. It's probably like Forrest Gump talking about shrimp, right?
Yeah.
Finally, we started telling each other a little more about ourselves, and I told him I was from Texas, and that then he asked me if I wanted to live there when I grew up and where I wouldn't want to live. I told him, well, I didn't mind where I lived as I got older, but I did not want to live in
Idaho. I knew this was coming.
When he started telling me about himself, he said that he was from
Idaho.
Idaho. There you go.
Yeah.
That's why he loved potatoes.
I'm guessing. I drew that connection.
And he said he loved it so much that he wanted to live there when he grew up and become a potato farmer.
Well, there you go.
Surprise, surprise.
That tracks.
It was his name J.R. Simplot?
I don't.
See,
I realized
that's only funny if you're from Idaho.
Yeah,
it is.
right.
So you didn't get that.
I
All the
did not.
people, the viewers who are from Idaho, they got that joke. You guys didn't get that joke, but let me tell you, that was very funny.
Funny in Idaho.
Yes.
An Idaho joke. She said I realized I kind of bashed on it before it was kind of awkward. Then out of the blue, he said, hypothetically, if I were to get married in the next month and my husband was from Idaho and wanted to live there to be a farmer, would I move there for him? He basically started describing everything that he told me he wanted to do in his life and asked me, hypothetically, if I would want to marry someone like that. As an incoming freshman who literally been living on her own for 2 weeks, I was not ready for marriage.
What?
So it was really uncomfortable, and he
Yeah.
kept asking me about it, even though I told him I wasn't looking for anything serious. Then he started telling me about the attributes he looked for in a wife and basically described me.
Really? I thought you were going to say describe potatoes. I like them julienne. I like my wife French fried.
So after a painfully long dinner conversation, he took me home. And when I was leaving, he said he wanted to see me soon because he, quote, sees a future with me.
Oh, wow.
This was definitely an unforgettable date and when there was no second date.
Why, that is just the weirdest story I've ever heard. But think if he loved her the way he loved potatoes.
It was a match
you a
made in
man
heaven.
who talks about you the way this man talks about potatoes.
If he held you in the high esteem he held potatoes. And I can just see this on your 10th anniversary, honey. I got to tell you, to me, you're right up there with russets. You know.
That's as high as you can get.
Yeah, it is.
A russet potato.
Yeah,
Like golden potatoes.
Yeah.
So what's your takeaway from all this?
Takeaway is that we just continue to get these amazingly bizarre dating stories that are very entertaining. So it's very fun. So on one hand, I think stop doing that is what I want to say. But on the other hand, I say, no, keep doing that because what other funny content are we going to get? So please keep doing these
I have
crazy...
these kids send these in to me all the time. So
and we probably should do some verification on this because this last one, I think whoever wrote this was...
You don't think potato
Well, the
farming...
thing is, the only thing that I think is that it is such a bizarre story that no one could make that up.
Right. Who would make up a potato story?
You know,
like
we need to get them here in the School of Communications in our content creation class because if you made that story up, you've got a future in advertising.
Yeah. You do. Well, and I want the girls to know is that, you have to be really careful. You have to get a lot of details because we want you to be safe.
Well, safety is the number one thing, but other than that, they make for really good stories.
They do.
Later on in life, and as you move through life, you you need to have some good stories.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you never know when you run into these. As long as you're safe and it's just awkward and odd, it just makes a good story for later on. So even if you don't know what you're doing, jump in and go on dates. And people are going to make mistakes. I'm hoping that some of these folks who made these stupid mistakes learned from those mistakes.
I hope so.
And maybe on the next time that they convince some girl to go with them, they explained it was a date, and they didn't talk about potatoes, and
You don't leave them in the middle of
didn't leave them in the middle of
sand
the
dunes.
desert in 25-degree
yeah,
weather.
crazy. Last piece of advice, Lauren, for these young women.
I don't know. I was just thinking about how like in that story, that last one, she was like, "Oh, I felt bad for bashing on Idaho," and yeah, like there is that, but at the same time, if you don't want to live in Idaho, don't be ashamed.
Be honest,
like,
just
transparent.
don't try to like change who you are based on like what your date says. Like that's not going to help anybody either.
And if you don't like potatoes, just throw it
Just
out there at the
say-
beginning of the date.
just
The
say
very
it.
first part of the date, say,
Bring it
yes,
up
how
from
are
the
you?
beginning.
I don't like potatoes, and I don't want to live in Idaho.
That should be.
Well, why are you
should
saying
start-
this to me? It was my last date pushed me on this. And then we've got another funny story.
Yeah.
So now the guy writes in and says, I took this girl on a date, and the first thing she said to me is, I don't like Idaho.
And
I mean, hey.
Start every day with, I don't like potatoes.
I don't like
And just-
potatoes, and I don't want to live in Idaho. Well, you went out with her. What was she like?
I'm
Well,
from-
she doesn't like potatoes. I
I'm
can
from
tell you that.
Arizona.
How could she not like potatoes?
Oh, yeah. How weird. No, so here's my advice there. Girls, ask guys out.
Yes.
If you're getting asked out by goofy guys, then just go ask guys out. We live
And
in
plan
a new
the
world.
date.
Yes, and
Do something fun.
And we
Go to dinner.
And it doesn't have to cost money.
No.
And so we live in a world now where back at one time that was not acceptable for girls to ask guys out. It was kind of frowned upon, and we don't live in that world anymore. It's perfectly acceptable for you to find a guy and go say, hey, like I would like to, let's go to dinner.
Yes.
And if you ask, then you pay. Or you
Absolutely.
say, look, I'd like to get to know you better. Can we walk together to church or to, there was something. And the idea is just having a conversation with someone, getting to know them.
Right.
Most guys like that. And they like to see when someone is interested enough in them, just like girls do.
Absolutely.
To have somebody want to spend enough time with them to get to know them. And then just remember when you're out, ask them questions about them, talk about them, not potatoes, not and talk to them about what they like. Don't have a list of questions and don't recruit them into an MLM, but just get to know them and have a conversation, because those conversations develop friendships.
They do.
For sure.
And friendships lead to more deepening friendships, and those deepening friendships eventually at some point can lead to marriage.
They do.
Not always, but it's not like this guy who's going out and saying, well, theoretically, on the first date, if you were going to marry a potato king, would it be me?
A potato king.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, a guy who loves potatoes. I mean...
Well,
good.
hopefully we learned a lot from that.
We
And
do. We
hopefully
learn from our mistakes.
learn from our mistakes, and hopefully you young people out there learned a lot from these. And we enjoy these stories.
Yes,
and
we do.
I invite you to send me more.
Yes.
And you
Keep
can
'em
send
coming.
those to our email at itsjustdinnerYSA
Keep doing those stupid
at
things.
gmail.com.
What would we have to talk about if it
we
weren't
wouldn't
for
we
these?
wouldn't be able to make fun of anyone if we didn't have these stories. So
Instead, we just have to keep going to Jurassic Taco every week and eating
and
tacos,
having
which is better.
tacos, which
Yes.
I may go there tonight.
Okay,
So
I'm with you.
well, we had lots of fun today,
Yes.
and be sure to look for us on Instagram. We're at It's Just Dinner YSA on Instagram, and
Yes.
and It's Just Dinner on TikTok.
Yeah.
And we're TikToking now, so we have
Wow.
lots of pictures of the It's Just Dinner night at Jurassic Taco. So go
Right.
and check those out, and so make sure also that you leave us some comments on our
Positive
on
comments
our podcast
on how
and
funny we are.
Nice reviews, yeah, about how funny we are and how funny these stories are.
Yes,
And so thanks for being here, Lauren and Bob.
Yeah. of
my
course.
pleasure.
And hey, everybody out there, just go have fun, will you?